What's up, Elite Army? This is your kinda well, kinda toxic host, Sarah Rittendale, bringing you another episode of Wellish. Building your self-worth is not an easy task. Honestly, I think it gets kind of confusing because it's not like, you're going to sit here and be shitting on yourself all of the time. And one day, just because you told yourself that you have to recognize and see your self-worth, that you're just going to be able to do it. Again, just because you told yourself to. Which is really why I titled this episode Build Your Self-Worth and not get self-worth or how to attain self-worth or how to start feeling that you're worthy, because it's not going to be this thing that washes over you all of a sudden when you start practicing valuing yourself and when you start recognizing your self-worth. It is something that is built over time. And that said, it's something that always is built over time. You're not, again, going to have this moment that you're worthy and you never falter and you're always going to be, good and feel good all of the time. There's going to be things in life that come up that make you question your self-worth, and it's how you handle it at those moments. The goal is to feel worthy more of the time than not. But again, there are still going to be those times that you're like, oh, fuck, that hurt. That hurt my worthiness, like that. I don't know if I am good enough or if I am feeling a little bit more insecure right now. So being able to really know what you need to do in order to build your self-worth is really helpful so that you can utilize these practices in those moments that you feel like shit, but also just in your everyday life so that you can always remind yourself that you are worthy. So when those hard moments do come up, you're more well practiced and are able to apply them. And I think that's a really big mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to worthiness is they practice it when they feel like shit already compared to practicing it when they feel good, so that when they feel like shit, they're more well practiced. Especially like a day like today, Valentine's Day, it really is a day that, you kind of are like, oh, like, okay, I guess I'm single as fuck, or I guess I'm just not worthy of love because my significant other didn't do dick for me today, and that makes me feel like shit. So, when you have these these moments that aren't every day, this isn't the time to be like, oh, well, now I have to figure out how to build my self-worth and make myself realize that I'm worthy. Now, if you're here and that's the reason, then that's great. I think there's no wrong time to figure out your worthiness. But the point that I'm trying to make is that you have to, yes, do it now when you feel like shit, but you have to do it when you feel good too, and recognize your worth while you're just living and while things make you happy and while things, make you feel confident and all the above, so that when things do happen, you can help yourself at any given point in your life. So what is self-worth exactly? And like I've said to you guys in the past, I think it's a lot easier to understand how to attain something when we know what something is, but for some reason we don't often take the time to learn simply what a thing is. We just take tidbits because we think we have a general idea of what it is, which works. I mean, because, you get an idea of it, but you don't get to experience it as fully as you probably could without knowing exactly what it is you're trying to attain in all of its nooks and crannies. So we did talk about this on the first episode because it is a big pillar of self-love, but I really want to break down what self-worth is in its entirety for you guys. So blanket level, it is your inherent value and worth and dignity that you have for yourself. It is recognizing yourself as a human being that makes mistakes and experiences emotions. And it requires this deep understanding of who you are, independent of external factors like people's opinions and achievements that you can make or your outward appearance. There's not going to be an external thing that determines your worth. There's not going to be a goal that you reach that makes it that now your worth has been determined. It is just a deep understanding of who you are. Having a strong sense of self-worth means being able to recognize your own strengths and weaknesses and being able to navigate life's challenges with resiliency and dignity and know that you'll be able to, make it through anything that you have to make it through with self-compassion and kindness and just being able to set boundaries, like just being able to believe that you're able to is knowing that you're worthy. It is the foundation for your well-being and your confidence and your self-esteem. If you can really build this ability is when those other things start to trickle into your life for you. In short, it really is just having this like deep awareness of who you are and being kind to yourself for being that person. It's just being like, yeah, I really care for people and maybe sometimes a little bit more than I should, but that's something that I really value is, making sure that the people that I love in my life feel good and cared for and know that I am there for them. Or it's being like, yeah, sometimes I let my emotions get the best of me because I am a very sensitive person. And that's also something about me. And that's the thing too, is if it's something about you that you want to improve upon, still knowing that that is a part of you and that that is who you are, but knowing that it's something that you can work towards and work on, that you don't have to be mean to yourself for having that piece of you. You can know that it's just a piece of you that you have right now and you're always working to develop it. It's just knowing that right now that's where you're at and knowing that you're not a piece of shit for that being where you're at right now. So how do we start to build this skill of recognizing our self-worth? The first one is kind of a given because we've talked about it probably 100 times, but it's really practicing that self-compassion. And I really want to emphasize practicing the self-compassion in everyday life because I think a lot of the time when we get this advice to recognize our self-worth, it's talking about recognizing it during the hard times. And I obviously definitely think that that is important, that you recognize your self-worth during the hard times. But I think it's almost, dare I say, more important that you recognize it in your everyday life so that when those hard times do come up and you have these like heavy emotions and feelings, you'll be more familiar with being able to have self-compassion and being able to practice that in the hard times too. I think it's easy for us to get less intentional when we don't have to worry about these kinds of things. When you're feeling good, when you're with your friends, when you're happy in a relationship, when you're getting the promotion at the job, all of the things, it's like you feel good. So you don't think like, okay, like how can I recognize my worth in this moment? But if you can remember to tell yourself that you're worthy, even though you're with a bunch of friends right now, or even though you're in a relationship, that's not what determines your worth. It determines my worth that I am X, Y, and Z trait. And that's how I've gotten to this place. So then when things do come up, you can acknowledge your mistakes and your imperfections without harsh judgment of yourself. You want to identify your strengths. And I think that this is really big because it's really where you can hone in on your worthiness because you're finding the things about you that you really like and that you know that you're good at. It's recognizing your talents and skills and qualities and celebrating your own achievements, no matter how small they are, and celebrating the ways that you've contributed to the life that you have now and the lives of other people. How do you bring value to other people's lives? It's seeing all of that for what it is as a strength and appreciating that you're capable of that. Setting boundaries is another huge piece of building your self-worth. It always, to me, seemed like something that I would be able to do once I viewed myself as worthy because, I would view myself as worthy and then I would be able to say no to things that didn't meet my needs or my wants or that didn't make me feel good. And really, it is setting boundaries is being able to practice your self-worth. It's being able to build on your self-worth, because when you recognize things in your life that you don't need or you don't want or make you uncomfortable, whatever, and you have the courage to set the boundary, it's like, yeah, because I know that I'm worthy. It's like you're building on that self-worth through your ability to set boundaries. Something we definitely have already talked about before is challenging that negative self-talk that you're experiencing all the time. Replacing those critical thoughts with something a little bit more realistic. That's a way that you can make yourself feel good and feel confident. I don't mean be realistic and still be mean to yourself, but be realistic about what is probably actually happening and what it is that you're experiencing and how you could move forward from this experience. Focusing on what a realistic outcome could be compared to these perceived weaknesses. Set realistic, achievable goals that align with your values. When you set these goals and you accomplish these goals, yes, it is an external thing and you don't need the external in order to view your self-worth, but it's more so for the fact that you are proving to yourself that you can accomplish things, that you're proving that you can count on yourself and you can trust yourself to do the things that you set out to achieve, that you're not just all talk and no action. And it's not, again, about what goal you're accomplishing. It's about the fact that you are accomplishing a goal. So it can be anything. It can be something super small. It doesn't have to be fucking become the CEO of a corporation. It can be drink a bottle of water today. And when you accomplish that, you feel really good. And there's something that happens in your brain for motivation when you are reaching these smaller goals. I think we're all taught to have these big fucking goals, to that you reach for the stars. What is it? Reach for the moon and then maybe you'll land on the stars. And I enjoy that. I kind of appreciate that. But there is just something about reaching the goal that you're like, fuck yeah. I know that I'm capable of doing this. And it boosts that sense of worthiness that you have, where when you've set a goal for yourself and you're so far along and realize that you're nowhere near reaching the goal, you're kind of like, well, fuck it. I mean, I'm just going to give up. There's no point. I'm obviously not going to reach it. It's physically impossible to try to reach it. And then you just feel like shit. So setting these small goals helps build your worthiness, because you know that you are capable of achieving these goals that you set out for yourself. Practicing self-care and, doing things that are good for your mind, body, and soul, whatever that looks like for you. That can be different. I'm not telling you to go out there and start lifting all the weights, but, go and sit in the sun for a little while, stretch, go for a walk, do something for your physical health, drink some water, don't stop eating pizza for every fucking meal of the day, and have something that's a little bit more whole food that's going to nourish you, or, take a moment to sit in silence and meditate. And if meditation is too hard for you, then, just sitting in silence and listening to the world around you, listening to the birds, listening to people talking, listening to the cars going by on the road, just being aware of where you are in the present state, but just doing something to practice self-care that isn't just bubble baths and coloring books, but doing something that's actually good for you physically and mentally and emotionally. Nothing wrong with bubble baths and coloring books, if they help you, to take the edge off and just relax for a little bit if you've just been on go. But you know what I mean? That you're just try to actually do something for your health and for your overall well-being. I think another big thing that doesn't get talked about very much when it comes to building self-worth is seeking support, finding people and friends that, and even a therapist that will help you see your worthiness and help you feel empowered and feel good about yourself. And it's less about, them making you feel good in a sense that oh no, you're worthy, and reassuring you. It's just more so that you're surrounded by good people that reflect the same values that you have and bring out good in you and don't tear you down and don't make you feel like shit and don't make you feel like you have to be somebody that you're not. And when you have that kind of experience, it's not so much that you're getting validation from externals, because you're not saying oh, I'm worthy because I have these friends, or oh, I'm worthy because I have this boyfriend or girlfriend. It's oh, I'm worthy because I'm a good friend and I have good people surrounding me and people around me make me feel good. And seeking support in that way is less about having to seek external validation and more so just being able to validate yourself and feel worthy in yourself for the relationships that you've been able to cultivate. Pursue hobbies and interests that align with things that you like and are important to you and pique your interest. Do things that you enjoy, that bring you joy, that make you feel happy. And when you do that, it's like that you are capable of creating your own worthiness and your own ability to feel good and live a life that you enjoy. And through that, you'll be able to feel a sense of worth because you'll know that you're capable of accomplishing these things that make you feel good. Focus on the positive aspects of your life and cultivate gratitude for the things that you do have instead of constantly focusing on what it is you lack. Keeping a gratitude journal or just simply taking time throughout the day to be like, God, I'm so grateful that I have this in my life. And again, I think that this is a piece of advice that's kind of annoying when you hear it because you're going through it, because it's just kind of like, I don't fucking have anything. Like, what can I be grateful for? It's such like a fucking simple piece of advice, but it's being able to practice gratitude every single day so that when the shitty stuff comes up, you're able to still see the good things that are in your life. It's less about, be grateful. Like, fuck all the shitty things that happen in your life. You've still got air to breathe and water to drink and hopefully 4 limbs and all the things. But like, it's just, this state of knowing that you can't have everything, but you do have a lot of the things that you need because you live a life that you align with and you live a life that you want. And so you've been able to create things that you can be grateful for because you have your own back. And when you don't find ways that you have even, simple things that you can be grateful for, because there's always something. There's literally always something. Building your self-worth requires patience, man. Like, it requires the constant act of, self-compassion and self-reflection. And it's not something that's ever going to go away. It's not like you're going to do that enough and you'll accomplish it. It takes patience and time to build it to a point that you can always utilize it. But you're just not going to practice these things and feel this sense of worthiness wash over you. And I know I feel like I've said that 100 times, but I just feel like I can't express it enough because I always thought that, and I see people in my life that always think that they're like, I'm going to find my worthiness and it's going to fucking change my whole life. And once I do that, everything's going to fall into place. And it doesn't work like that. You're constantly building on it. You're constantly practicing it. And if you feel that you don't have worthiness right now, you are going to practice it so that you get it to have it more than you do now. And that is going to be a thing. You're going to have it more than you don't have it. And that's something to work towards, but it's just not going to be this like overarching, thing that is a consistent trait that you have and you carry throughout your entire life. You just have to start seeing yourself as worthy and believing that you're worthy, even if you really don't believe it at first. You're just going to have to remember to constantly remind yourself of the ways that you are, or constantly remind yourself that you are, and recognize your strengths and recognize your weaknesses and just get to know yourself better and better and know that for whatever reason you are worthy, and you have to just find those reasons and convince yourself that it's true until you actually can see why it is true. You have to constantly remind yourself to be kind with yourself and remember that you're worthy of love and you're worthy of respect and happiness just as you are right now, right in this moment. And I know it to be true because I love you. Thank you so much for listening to day 14 of the 28 days of self-love. Make sure to subscribe to the show so you can tune in tomorrow for day 15, where we're going to talk about saying no. So really like a setting boundary type of conversation, but we're going to really focus on just having the ability to fucking say no. Thank you again for listening to today's episode. Make sure your day kicks ass. Don't forget, you are so, so elite. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow.